Today is 3 May 2001. Presidential remarks at the American Jewish Committee Building Museum in Washington, D.C. Open Main, Newman on camera, Farmer on audio, camera gear.
United States, George W. Bush.
Mr. President, Minister Fisher, Minister Perez, distinguished friends, and members of the American Jewish Committee. You honor us with your presence tonight. You, President Bush and President Fox, Minister Fisher, and Minister Perez honor us with your very tangible demonstration of the friendship that exists between our countries, between and among our people. You honor and you vigorously defend the causes that we in the American Jewish Committee champion. The cause of democracy, the cause of human rights, the cause of overcoming prejudices and barriers that stand in the way of full acceptance for people of every faith and color and nationality. And most important of all, the cause of peace. Peace in our own hemisphere, in Europe, and in the Middle East. Peace in which the children of Mexico and the United States, together with the children of Germany and Israel, can grow and thrive in a world free of bigotry, free of demagoguery, and free of terror. Friends, as I convene tonight's 95th annual dinner of the American Jewish Committee, I would like to pay tribute not only to our distinguished speakers, but to some of the special guests who are seated among you in this magnificent hall. Joining President Bush, we have Condoleezza Rice, National Security Advisor, and Josh Bolton, the Deputy Chief of Staff. We also honor the five members of the Mexican cabinet who accompanied President Fox. Jorge Castaneda, the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Julio Frank, the Secretary of Health. Santiago Levy, the Director of the Mexican Social Security Institute. Victor Lichtinger, the Secretary of Environment. And Marta Segun, the President's spokesperson. We honor as well the Foreign Minister of Slovakia, Edward Kukan, and the Foreign Minister of Kazakhstan, Erlin Idrisov. We honor the presence tonight as well of Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, and Mayor Anthony Williams of Washington. We are pleased to be joined as well by a delegation of some 35 senior officers of the German Armed Forces, by some 50 members of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and by a special guest, Vladimir Guzinski, who has become a world symbol for freedom of the press. And finally, we are especially pleased to have with us tonight the leaders of 45 Jewish communities from around the world, from Mexico, of course, to Argentina, from Sweden to Tunisia, from Ukraine to India to Australia, and on and on. Their presence with us tonight gives testimony to both the unity and the diversity of the Jewish people, just as the presence of all of our distinguished guests this evening gives testimony to the universal principles of pluralism and mutual respect. It's now my privilege to call upon my colleague, my partner, my friend, David Harris, the Executive Director of the American Jewish Committee. Good job,
President Bush, President Fox, Foreign Minister Perez, Foreign Minister Fisher, my partner at the American Jewish Committee for the last 3 years, Bruce Raymer, and what a 3 years it's been. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, you join us as we proudly mark the 95th anniversary of this great organization. It was the persecution against Jews in Tsarist Russia that prompted a number of American Jews to attend a meeting in New York in 1906. And out of that meeting was born the American Jewish Committee. Throughout 95 years of tumultuous global history, the American Jewish Committee has never wavered in its mission to ensure the well-being and security of Jews in a world respectful of democratic values, human rights, and mutual understanding. We have witnessed the Jewish people's darkest hour during these 95 years, the Shoah, the Holocaust, and we have witnessed its finest, the rebirth of the State of Israel. Yes, we have witnessed the gamut, the peril and the promise, the darkness and the light. And as we move ahead along this journey, we have found, as the painter Marc Chagall once said, life can make one laugh and cry at the very same time. On the one hand, there are challenges aplenty. Israel's quest for a secure and lasting peace sadly remains incomplete. Tonight, here in this magnificent building, we reaffirm our steadfast commitment to the State of Israel, never more so than during these difficult times, as well as our dedication to strengthening still further the unique bilateral ties that bind Washington and Jerusalem. We were painfully reminded once again of the dangers to Jews when this past fall a shocking wave of anti-Semitic threats and assaults was documented in a number of Western countries, most especially France. Living in Europe this year, my family, including two of our children, have had the misfortune of experiencing it personally. The American Jewish Committee stands, as we have always stood, in solidarity with fellow Jews wherever they may live. We will not stand idle. How could we? While 9 Jews remain unjustly imprisoned in Iranian jails on trumped-up charges. Nor can we ever forget the 4 Israelis kidnapped by Hezbollah last fall and not heard from since. We are appalled by those who would distort or even laud the Holocaust. The focus of full-page ads we placed in the New York Times and Washington Post this week, and equally by those who would seek to deny the Jewish people's unique biblical, historical, and spiritual link to Israel or to the city of David, the city of Jerusalem. We remain profoundly concerned by the determined efforts of Iran and Iraq, 2 countries that openly call for Israel's annihilation, to acquire weapons of mass destruction and the means to deliver them. We vigorously applaud the democratic revolution that has swept through large parts of the world, including Europe, large parts of Asia, Latin America, and some parts of Africa. But too many governments are still maintained by the bullet, not the ballot. And it is precisely those undemocratic regimes which pose the gravest threat to human rights and to peace. And the often daunting task of promoting harmonious ties among the world's many religions, races, and nationalities remains with us, both within countries and across borders. Yet on the other hand, we can take heart from the remarkable human progress we've been privileged to witness in our lifetimes, and from the age-old Jewish belief that better days lie ahead if only we dedicate ourselves to their realization. Was it Yogi Berra who once said, "The future ain't what it used to be"? In fact, the future holds enormous promise, and this evening suggests why. The United States, under the leadership of President Bush, remains a powerful bastion for democracy and decency, and all I can say is, thank goodness for this great and wonderful country. America has always defined itself as a permanent work in progress, and that work, ladies and gentlemen, only gets better and better and better. Mexico has turned an important corner in its history with the election of you, President Fox, and its recent political, economic, and social development has been enormously impressive. Germany has, over the past half-century, become a model democratic nation and an indispensable partner for the State of Israel. Foreign Minister Joschka Fischer is both a reflection of and a leader of today's dynamic Germany. And Israel has defied all the odds. It has become a metaphor for the triumph of hope over despair. And there is no one who understands this better than Shimon Peres, who has played a leading role in Israel's remarkable saga from 1948 until the present day. Could the American Jewish Committee's visionary founders have ever foreseen an occasion such as this dinner tonight? Probably not in their wildest dreams. But surely they would have been pleased to see the results of their efforts. The tree they so wisely planted 95 years ago has grown tall and proud, And as with any healthy tree, we, the American Jewish Committee, draw strength and nourishment from our deep roots. And as our Jewish tradition teaches us, just as previous generations planted for us, so must we plant for the generations to come. And you can be sure that we will. Enjoy the evening.
President Vicente Fox has been and will continue to be a force for democracy, for economic progress, for the promotion of free trade, for the protection of human rights. He has shown sensitivity to the difficult problems of migration between our two countries. And he has proven himself to be a good friend indeed of the Mexican Jewish community and of the entire Jewish people. I am honored and privileged and pleased to introduce and to present to you tonight President Vicente Fox of Mexico.
His Excellency George Bush, President of the United States of America, the very distinguished Joschka Fischer, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Federal Republic of Germany, the very distinguished Shimon Peres, First Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel, the very distinguished Bruce M. Reimer, President of the American Jewish Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, Franz Kafka, the famous Jewish writer, once said that we all know more Yiddish than we think. I don't speak Yiddish nor Hebrew, but I do know the classic Jewish greeting. Two simple words to say it all. Shalom, Haverim. It is an honor to be here tonight with such a large and important group of members and sponsors of the American Jewish Committee. This institution, a pioneer in defense of human rights, stands out for its intense work in favor of liberty, justice, and understanding between ethnic, racial, and religious groups, not only in the United States, but also in the rest of the world. I want to express my deepest recognition for your work. The main public affairs issues which concerns this prestigious institution, such as the fight against racism, the defense of freedom of religion, and the respect for civil rights, are a natural outgrowth of the rich and complex experience of the Jewish people. The principles which inspire the American Jewish Committee with respect to those matters reflect a profound humanism, the fruit of the Jewish people's religious and cultural legacy, as well as their long and extraordinary history. One feature stands out throughout history as a determining factor in the shaping of the character of the Jewish people. The experience of migration. Time and again, Jewish communities had to travel distant lands in search of a better life. From the time of the Exodus or of the diaspora to the most painful moments of the 20th century, the people of Israel have given testimony to the extraordinary strength and solidarity of their communities. Despite the countless adversities they have faced, Jewish communities have been able to preserve, as few have, your values, a strong identity by placing value on their faith, your traditions, and your ideals. Many nations benefit from the valuable contribution of the Jewish communities that have settled in their lands. Moreover, today, the Jewish people also have a proper stake in your own soil. And although, as in the case of many Jewish Americans, my country will always firmly defend the right of Israel to live in peace, prosperity, and within safe and secure borders. Thus, since the creation of the United Nations, Mexico played a central role in the establishment of the State of Israel in 1947. Mexico, as Israel's friend and partner, will continue to support an integral peace process in the region to which Shimon Peres, Israel's foreign minister and Nobel Prize winner, has made an outstanding contribution. Beyond its borders, the Jewish people have always been able to achieve singular standing in the nations which they have chosen to make theirs. Thanks to your talent, creativity, and hard work, Mexico is one of those nations that has benefited from your presence. Although it has not been the destination for large migration flows, Mexico has throughout its history offered asylum to countless people who have sought refuge on our soil. In the century that recently concluded, Mexico always welcomed immigrants from every corner of the earth. Among the most numerous were, of course, Mexico's Jewish immigrants, who brought with them, since the early 20s, great human qualities and cultural values. In the case of the United States, we can go as far as to say that the history of this country cannot be understood without taking into account the valuable contribution this community has made to the vigorous democratic tradition, economic prosperity, scientific and technological development, and cultural life of this great nation. I cannot but find certain similarities between the contribution and the role that millions of Mexicans play in this great country. In a sense, although for reasons very different from those of the Jewish people, Mexico has also become a country of migrants who, through their skills and hard work, contribute to the prosperity and cultural life of the communities where they have settled, particularly in the United States. I am sure that all of you, by virtue of your experience and your firm commitment to the cause of tolerance and respect for diversity will be able to understand the profound human dimension of the phenomenon of Mexican migration to the United States and its implications for our two societies. You can make an important contribution so that both countries, Mexico and United States, view migration as an enriching process. Since the 19th century, but mostly throughout the last century, millions of Mexicans decided to migrate to the United States, whether to work temporarily or to settle definitively. We Mexicans are the first to be concerned about migration. We would love to have our kids in our own communities and with their own families. Many Mexican migrants face serious limitations in the United States with respect to employment, salaries, health care, and access to education. They are often the victims of intolerance, xenophobia, and racist attitudes. I am very aware that others share our concern about this complex problem. It is to no one's advantage to allow migration to carry on in a disorderly manner, leading to injustices and giving rise to disagreement in a relationship with such a potential of progress as the one that exists between Mexico and the United States. I would like to take this moment to express my recognition of President George Bush for the visionary and determined way in which he has committed himself to working with Mexico to approach migration in an innovative, creative, and comprehensive manner. President Bush is familiar with the issue. He was the governor of a state particularly influenced by migration. I am from the state of Guanajuato, one of the states in Mexico with higher migration rates. Having governed this state, I am fully aware of the high priority vested in this matter. During our meeting in February, both President Bush and myself resolved to address this complex problem. We have agreed to seek out legal and administrative alternatives that would allow undocumented Mexican workers in the United States to regularize their status, and we are exploring viable formulas for enhanced Mexican temporary worker programs. In this respect, I again wish to acknowledge with respect the importance of President Bush's decision to request an extension of the Life Act in order to regularize the situation of migrants in the United States. We're aware that the best way to solve the problem that results from migration is to bring about greater economic growth to Mexico. Vigorous, sustained economic growth will make it possible to significantly increase the number of jobs in the country and consequently to reduce migratory pressures. We have to offer potential migrants attractive alternatives because we do not wish to lose their talent and entrepreneurial spirit. We must avail ourselves of Mexico's enormous growth potential to generate new opportunities for the young Mexican that grow and reach the age of 18 years every year. The conditions are ripe for this. NAFTA has made closer ties with international markets possible, generating greater opportunities. Proof of this lies in the fact that bilateral trade between our countries last year totaled more than $260 billion, making Mexico the second most important trading partner of the United States.